As far as L.A. goes, I doubt those police would have done what they did if they knew the camera was on them. Okay, and if they thought they were right, why did they lie on their reports? In New York, the Rosenbaum, okay, that's a damn shame what happened to that gentleman. And whoever did it, I hope they catch him and I hope they fire him, all right? But now, as far as him saying, why did you stab me? Okay, the police could have, now nobody knows actually what happened. The police could have said, we got the guy that did it, okay? And then he walks up and says, why did you, and then they brought him forward. He says, why did you stab me? All right, now I have a friend who was in a store when there was a stick-up, okay? He walked down, the police said for him to witness his lineup. And they told him before he even got to the lineup, we got the guy that stuck up the store. And we want you to identify him. Walked in there, the person wasn't there. He says, these are none of the guys. The police got angry with him. They said, this is the guy here. He says, no, that's not the person. And he said, it looked like the police wanted to beat him up. But that is an old police trick. To say, we got the guy that did it. Okay, that's to make you think, well, that's to make you follow suit. I said, that could have been what happened in the Rosemount case.
I'll tell you what I'm beginning to think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm beginning to think the world is a much better place than I have been thinking that it is, simply because in speaking to people such as yourself, I get the idea that no one is ever guilty.
Oh, somebody's guilty.
That bad things happen, but they happen because maybe there are evil spirits, or there are bad butterflies, or people have hallucinations. But there are really no crimes that ever take place. There's always a total justification, or the police make up stories. And it's a good thing. I sleep better tonight knowing that there really are no bad people who hurt other people, because apparently there are not.
If the police can sell drugs, they can lie.
Well, for that matter, if the who are you going to call tonight? If somebody, let's say, while I'm talking to you, somebody crawls in your window and puts a knife to your throat, who are you going to call for? The police or someone else?
If
the police or Rodney King?
If they can sell drugs, they can lie too.
But would you call the police if you needed help?
That's beside the point.
That's beside the point?
If they can sell drugs, they can.
So what you're going to do is, I'm talking to a man who, if he needed help, he'd call the cops, but outside of that, he'll insult them. You're a nice guy.
I'm not insulting them.
No,
how am I insulting the police?
I'll play you back the tape.
Are they guilty of selling drugs? Are they guilty of pointing out innocent people in a subway?
I'm going to answer you. You asked me a question. You deserve an answer. No, they are not guilty of selling drugs.
No?
No.
So Dowd is not guilty of selling drugs?
Dowd is guilty. The police are not. The police department does not have a policy of selling drugs. Dowd is one man who did bad things. Now, I know that, but you're not the type of guy to make an inference that because one person of a group does something, they're all bad, are you?
Internal Affairs set this guy.
Why aren't you? You're not listening. You're not answering me. You're not answering me.
Internal Affairs, let him go for
Leon, buddy, old pal.
They ain't on it with him.
Leon, you're beginning to sound as if you have a prejudice. That you're less than the objective being you make out you are.
Sir?
You don't have to call me sir. You can call me by my name.
Internal Affairs let him go 4 times.
Are you the kind of person to draw an inference from a specific act to a generalization? In other words, if there is one policeman named Michael Dowd who sells drugs, are you therefore the type of person to say that all police sell drugs? Is that what you're saying?
When I hear you talking about black people, if one person did something, you say blacks.
I do?
Oh, yes, you do.
Well, why don't you cite me a case? Because I think I don't.
Oh, I think you do.
No, I don't.
Blacks do this and blacks do that because you still want to.
You hear me get on the radio and say blacks do this and blacks do that?
Oh yes.
Well, why don't you? I'm denying it. I'm like Limerick Nelson. I plead innocent. So far, we have an accusation.
And he was found innocent.
We don't have. Well, that's why I'm as innocent as Limerick Nelson.
Well, you have to stand trial.
Now, I'm willing to stand trial. Why? That's what I'm trying to get at. Why don't you cite some evidence?
Look, let me tell you something. The New York Police Department.
You know what you are. You know what you are.
100 years now.
You know what you are.
They've been crooked over 100 years.
The last word is Buster, and the first word is ball. Ever hear that expression?
Ever since Tammany Hall, New York Police Department has been crooked.
Well, by the way, Tammany Hall was not an institution that was running the police department. Tammany Hall was the New York City Democratic machine.
New
Listen
York
to me.
City Police Department has been
I'm asking you. I'm really listen. You're embarrassing yourself because I resent it when you interrupt me. The Tammany Hall was not an operation. It was not the police department. Tammany Hall was the building where the Democrat political machine's headquarters were contained. The Democrat political machine that you cite when you make reference to Tammany Hall, oh genius, Leon, is the same Tammany Hall machine that spawned the likes of your hero, David Dinkins. Now, we can bring him back if he's still there. Is he gone yet?
There's a lot.
Oh, I thought we got rid of him.
He inherited those problems. That
I know. He can't do any wrong.
He walked in. Hey, look. That drug dealing in the police department was going on when Koch was
Who
there.
would you call?
When Dean was there.
Who would you call if you were in a jam? Answer me. I answered all your questions. I was nice to you. So why can't you answer
the only people I can call are the police.
That's right. And you would call them.
Of course.
Of course. Why do you want to call drug dealers over? What good can they do you? The only reason you'd call them, when you say the only people you could call is the police, you're trying to be a wise guy and say if you had an alternative, you'd call someone else. But the fact is you'd call the police because you know they would have to respond.
And hope that they're not drug-dealing liars and thieves.
You know that they would have to respond. And they have to respond because it's their sworn obligation to respond,
Is Frank
even to a guy like you. Now, let me pursue this with you, Leon. Are you still there? Is he there?
Yeah. Serpico wrote a whole book on it.
Yeah, I understand that. But the fact of the matter is, I would have more respect for you if you said, well, I don't trust police and I'd never call them. Once you say you'll call them selectively when you need them and disparage them and imply that, what, you got a mucus condition?
And hope that they're not drug dealing.
Hello? Let him talk.
Hope that they're not drug dealing thieves and liars.
Yeah. Okay. You know something? When I pick up a phone call here on WABC, I hope that I'm not speaking to a guy like you. But every now and then I guess wrong.
Well.
Okay. Thanks.
You don't want to hear the truth. That's what it is.
No, I just don't want to hear your lies.
The truth.
Now, you're a very embittered man.
Tell Frank Serpico.
Leon.
Frank Serpico.
Please let me talk.
Tell Frank Serpico.
Leon, you are a very embittered guy. You have a grudge. You hate the police. And you make out that I castigate black people. That's not what I do. I'm the guy who made the tribute to black youth, so you're full of beans. But, what am I going to do? Bang my head on the wall? You can mislead yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Because you want to be an idealist, because you want to believe desperately that people are nice, you can approach a job like this. You can approach this kind of a job feeling that people are reasonable, and when you are nice to them and when you reason with them, they're going to respond in kind. And then you got a guy like Leon, who's on the phone with me now, who is a closed-minded guy who is submerged in a prejudice and hatred for the world that he's not even aware of, and you realize that there really is very little cause for hope. So let me say good night to you, Leon, and I hope it's a permanent good night, at least for you. On WABC.
I keep a notebook where I write down all the original ideas I think I have, and I had a few entries this week. The first one was, is it possible to have an original thought with 5 billion people in the world? The second one was, homosexuality is like banging your head against the wall. If you concentrate, you might enjoy it. The third one was, if you're not a manipulator, you're going to be manipulated. And the fourth and last one was, anything can be important to know if enough people know it. What do you think? Any of them ring true?
Yeah. I like the thing about if you're not a manipulator, you stand ready to be manipulated. But I don't know if it's as profound as you say. And it's a very cynical attitude.
It's kind of Machiavellian.
Well, it's not. I don't know why it's Machiavellian. It's cynical. It's cynical. It's fault-finding. You don't like people.
What about homosexuality and banging your head against the wall?
I don't bang my head against the wall, nor am I a homosexual, so I'm not qualified to comment.
Do you think it's possible to have an original thought with 5 billion people in the world?
Well, no two snowflakes are alike.
Okay.
Of course it's possible to have an original thought. But I'll give you an example. Every time a song is composed, that's an original thought, because there's copyrights on songs. They say that all the melodies have been used up, and yet it's rare, but every now and then a new melody is created, a new lyric is crafted. So if somebody writes a poem, that's an original thought.
I didn't think of it that way, but they say...
what makes you think that there's a finite number of original thoughts? Where would you get that thought?
Because I thought up everything.
What's your evidence? Well, there's the old story about the man who ran the United States Patent Office in 1898, he wrote to the General Services Administration and said we should cut this out because anything that's been invented or that ever could be invented has already been invented, so there's nothing more that's coming, and that was in 1898. I thank you for calling, Jeff. Appreciate the call on WABC.
And you should work on it. You know what I'm saying?
I need advice from you.
That's right.
What makes you think I'm going to keep talking to you? Oh, he hung up. All right, James, this is Jay Diamond. Hi.
Good morning, Jay.
Hiya, pal.
Jay, this is in response to caller Leon at about 1:45 a.m. He was harping on the police corruption. I believe that the handful of corrupt police will be taken care of and disciplined so as not to further the good image of the New York police. But what I'm very interested in, Jay, is the CCC. That's the Community Corruption Commission. This commission also, Jay, will be funded by monies recouped from welfare fraud. This commission will address certain elements of certain communities which deliberately lie to and mislead the police whenever they can, like the dog in the yard story where a patrolman was chasing a perp once and you said that a guy gave the guy erroneous information about to send the officer into a yard with a killer dog.
Right.
Now, we also got the occasion where housing police are kept outside while youth in the lobby laugh at them while they're trying to get in to respond to a call.
What is this called, the CCC? What is the...
This is the Community Corruption Commission. We also have in these housing projects people who knowingly harbor fugitives and who allow their apartments to be used as drug spots on a rotating basis. We also have people who disrupt evidence at crime scenes, like picking up spent cartridges after a shooting and before the police arrive. You know? Now, we also have the other things on another basis where people become extremely belligerent and combative when they're caught dead bang, fare beating on the subway, and they've got over $100 cash in their pocket.
Well, most people who commit crimes on the subway, it's a known fact, get on the subway by jumping the turnstiles.
Yeah, and you see what it is that I'm just hearing too much emphasis put on this corruption from what I deem are the people who never really like the police, because I believe there's an insidious ideology put forth in various communities from the earliest age where police are to be not respected at any price, and you're never to tell them the truth, and you're never to cooperate.
The irony is that with particular emphasis on the city's public housing projects, the crime there is a disgrace. And I'm going to tell you something. I accuse the Dinkins administration of racism. Not racism against whites, but racism against blacks. How do you like that? Because I'm going to tell you something. If there were little white babies being shot every night in crossfires of bullets, and if white mothers, 17 years old, would be shot in the head constantly, I bet you the Dinkins administration would take some action to stop it. But when it's blacks, he doesn't do anything. He regards it as business as usual. So the Dinkins administration has a racial bias against blacks, believe it or not. I don't know why anybody hasn't pointed it out yet. I can't even understand why I haven't pointed it out yet. But by God, it's true. And I'll tell you something. He is criminally negligent for allowing the atmosphere that prevails in the public housing in New York City, what is euphemistically referred to as public housing in New York City, to continue. Because day in and day out, there are assaults in what is euphemistically referred to as public housing in New York City. I'm talking about rapes, muggings, beatings, extortion, and murder. Why, there doesn't go by a day without a killing happening in some public housing project, sometimes more than one a day. And I'm not exaggerating. Those numbers are real, and they're provable. And the great tragedy is, James, that he looks the other way. This administration, for 3.5 years, has been willing to accept the murder of children in public housing projects as business as usual.
Jay, I was very thankful when you had Housing Patrolman Benevolent Association President Timothy Nichols on.
Remember?
Yes, sir, I do. And Jay, to wrap up, I would like to give you a quote from the more famous WABC personality in the mornings, who said, "People have no substantive criticism of Dinkins' performance as mayor, so they criticize his tennis playing and the way he dresses." You can only guess who said that.
Why?
boy.
Thank you, James.
You're welcome.
Well, I'll tell you, folks, if you are listening to me now, no matter what you think of me, if you vote for Rudolph Giuliani, and he promises you that he'll stop the carnage in public housing, then that would be a big, big, profound change in the way life is conducted here in New York City. The carnage in public housing has continued unabated. It is unrelenting in the 3.5 years of the Dinkins administration, and it was present prior to the administration of David Dinkins, but it has gotten worse. Murders, children, hails of bullets, crossfires, children sitting on stoops, school children, principals cut down. The bullets, the fighting, the shooting continues. Last night, a 13-year-old piece of garbage picked up by the cops after he shot a 17-year-old mother who rushed into a playground to try to pick up her little child to carry that child to safety during gunplay between a 13-year-old with a 9mm and a 16-year-old. It's not the first time it's happened. It happens every night. Where is the Dinkins administration in 3.5 years of shootings regularly in public housing projects where people regularly have to confess to you on television, oh, I don't go out after dark. I'm afraid to go out. But even so, you can't stay near the window because the bullets can come right in. My neighbor was killed by a bullet in the window. And yet it goes on and on and on and on and on. Does this mayor ever call attention to it? Does he ever say this must stop? Does he saturate the public housing projects with police? Does he beg the governor to release the National Guard? Does he petition the president to send in troops to ensure that decent people can live in public housing? This is not public housing projects. This is criminal housing projects. Because the decent people are afraid to be in there. The criminals have taken over. And who does he put in charge of the public housing? Laura Blackburn, a woman who doesn't know where she sits. And then Sally Hernandez Pinheiro. You don't need a little lady in a skirt outfit to do that. You need a guy in a flak suit. You need General Schwarzkopf to be the director of public housing in New York City. And you've got to focus attention on it. But you see, it's insidious. They won't focus public attention on it because to do so, to shine the light of disapproval on what's going on in public housing would be seen by hack politicians like David Dinkins as an admission, a concession of failure. And he is a failure. And guess who he's failing? Not whites. He's failing blacks. Because I'll tell you something, it is racism. If white people were being knocked off with the frequency and regularity that black people get knocked off in those housing projects, and I'm talking about innocent black people, believe you me, it would be stopped. But David Dinkins is so cynical, he knows that it's easier for him politically to look the other way because all those easily manipulated people in the public housing projects will vote for him anyway by virtue of his skin color. Because they're too hypnotized. They're too mind-controlled to understand where their real interests lie, where their self-interests lie, where their enlightened self-interests lie. It doesn't lie in electing David Dinkins. It lies in electing a man who will focus attention on the fact that they are living in a war zone and who will do something about it. Next time, when David Dinkins is on Lynn Samuels tomorrow morning, call him up and say, why are you ignoring the killing, the carnage, the battlefields of the public housing projects in New York City? Why? And don't let him snow you. I'm back.
And that's my first thought. The other thought that I wanted to point out was when you mentioned earlier about the people who talk in circles. I think what it is due to the fact that you are quite articulate, they attempt to imitate you, and they don't really have a concrete thought. So what comes out is just this kind of circular babble.